Hello, and good time zone, everyone. And what is up, gamers? Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you for waiting. That took me a minute. I had to make my tea, but I'm here now. Hi, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for the lurks, y'all. Thank you for the lurk, Eddie and Turnip. Thank you so much, and welcome in, Owl Quill. Hello, everybody. I hope you are well. I hope you've had good weeks so far. My week has been variable, is I think the way I shall be wording it. My week has been variable. But right now I'm feeling pretty positive because, well, I'm here and I get to hang out with all of y'all, and that is always a wonderful place to be. So, hello. I hope you're all well. Shall we take a look at what we're actually doing today? Here. So, hello? Where? Wait, where? Oh, there. Okay. I do really enjoy that because the red nose is optional. As you know, I can choose not to be a clown if I'm feeling like a serious goose and not a silly goose. But I'm so used to seeing this with the clown nose or the reindeer nose or whatever you want to call it, that it feels weird seeing my PNG tuber without it now. That's... Oh no, what have I done? Actually, speaking of, so this is like my spirit of winter, which means that at some point, this PNG tuber is going to be retired for the season. I have an idea for a brand new PNG tuber, in addition to our current raft, which of course is this one, our classic pirate with the feather quill pen, which I made specifically because I was wearing this outfit on the day that I debuted it, and it's just stuck around because it's nice having a PNG tuber. But then there was there was this guy who was also me, and then obviously for typically Fridays only is this friend, because I mean it's Horned. And she's also facing the wrong way because she's in the wrong position on this screen computer. Anyways, point being, I had an idea for another PNG tuber. And I don't know how much you guys want to see behind the magic of how these PNG tubers are made, and if so, I would be happy to paint it on stream, but if not, if you want to just have dun 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 dun, dun and like a new face reveal, I also would be happy to do it off stream and just you know, jump scare you with it at some point. It is very it is really stupid. It is really stupid, my new stupid idea for a stupid PNG tuber, but honestly, I think it's probably also the most honest in terms of a depiction of what's actually going on behind the scenes that you can't see because of the way that the camera is placed. I think that would be really funny. Anyways, before I get started, if you hear any noises, it's because I am moisturizing my hands. I'm not sponsored by La Roche-Posay, but I do. This is like the only hand cream that I use, because the one tube of this lasts quite a long time because it's really rich. So I don't mind that it's like £10 for one of these bad boys, but it's also got like a good ingredients list, like things that are good for your skin. And my hands do get dry, and I want to keep my hand skin as firm, elastic, and supple as possible for as long as possible because, you know, like these instruments are the most important tools that I have in terms of my craft as a maker of stuff. So, that, you know, caring for that is not only, you know, trying to remember to do stretchies while I'm working so I'm not continuously the shape of a shrimp, and or, oh my goodness, my back is so sore. I have been curled up on the sofa all day. I am stretching my wrists out a little bit as well just now before we get started, which are also feeling a little bit stiff because, again, I've been mostly writing emails back and forth, commenting on some pretty dense documents today. You know, like fun artist jobs that I am that I do during the day sometimes. Oh, ow. Okay. Okay, I've done my little hand stretchies. I'm having a little shake them out. I'm shaking them out. I'm It's making the desk chair shake. It's trying to shake out my arms and wrists and elbows and stuff to get them nice and limber and happy to start making art. Is also making my desk chair shake, and that's really uncomfortable. So I'm gonna stop now. Uh, and I guess we painted the haunts. This is haunts. This is our haunts. Um, and thus far, this looks like kind of a weird pride flag, but with a horse on it. But I'm not sure what pride flag this is. Horse pride. This is. Do horse girls specifically have a pride flag? They can have this one. Mm. Oh man, that's yummy. Mmm. Today's teas are many in number. I've got this, which is not tea, it's coffee. Hans the Haunts. Oh my god, his name. Yes, thank you, Alquill. His name is Hans, and he is a Haunts. It's canon now. I love it. I love it. That's so cute. Anyways, we are doing this because the Lunar New Year is on the horizon in the next few. I think technically it's like Tuesday, is it? Like the day of the Lunar New Year, but obviously, you know, it's celebration time just across the board. Now-ish. Lunar New Year 2026. Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday is like the official day. And we have horse for the day, or for the year rather. Our year is horse, and there is an element attached to each animal of the year, and it also changes. And this year it's fire. So we have a fire horse, and so this horse is a blaze, but kind of like Ponyta the Pokemon, in as much as you know, it's like it's safely ablaze. It's magic fire. Sweet. Okay, I wasn't actually sure what my like related element was for uh for the like the lunar zodiac. Um and Alquill is a wet dog, which is amazing, and also I'm sorry. Because that's always an interesting smell. But I am a wood rat, which is super fun, and oh man, I want to draw that character. Because as soon as I said wood rat, I'm just imagining, like, a little rat adventurer that lives in, you know, like a little, like imagine if, like, the hobbits from Lord of the Rings were little rat folk. That's what I'm imagining. This little ratto has a little cloak on and lives in a little, like, sort of, like, hollowed out bit of, like, the bottom of a tree trunk or something, in a little cottage, and, goes off on a little adventure from their little cottage in the woods. They've got a little walking stick, and you know, they've got a cloak and a nice bag, full of, you know, maps and snacks. What sort of snacks do rats like? Cheat do they like? I mean, the thing is, I've never had a pet rat, and I've had very few friends who've had pet rats, so my personal experience with rats and what they eat is like watching rats eating a pizza crust outside Roberta's in Brooklyn. And they were right too. The rat endorsement was correct. That pizza was sublime. Anyways, luckily internet doesn't transfer smell, says Alquill. I'm sure you smell delightful. That's a weird thing to say. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. Anyways, we're in the UK. Everyone is wet, says Cassett. That is true. That is true. I felt so bad for my Tesco delivery driver. I had groceries delivered today. I felt so bad for the Tesco delivery driver having to, like, haul these 2 crates of groceries up to my door in just, like, the absolute drizzle that was today. Now, that being said, there is, like, a little awning over my front door, so at least he wasn't standing there in the wet while I was hastily trying to unpack tins of beans and a block of cheddar cheese and some gluten-free Yorkshire puddings for tonight's dinner because we're having a little sausage and Yorkshire puddings and the good Swedish gravy and some peas, and it's a very silly meal and I'm looking forward to it. Rats are so cute. I love them so much. I have painted a few little rat folk before. I should do more of it because they are absolutely adorable. Hello, Ernesto, and happy Thursday to you too. I hope you're well. Welcome in. Rats like most things, says Casa. Yeah. Yeah. I remember years ago, I was touring a research facility at a local university, and they had their rat lab, and on the one hand I felt really sad that, you know, these rats are confined to a lab environment for their entire lives, and that sucks. But on the other hand, I was also like, oh, hello, hello. I was saying hello to all of them, and like everyone else that I was with on this little like tour of, you know, like education professionals were like, uncomfortable. I don't like rats. And I'm just like, what? Look at their little hand paws. Look at their little hand paws. And how could you not? I don't get it. I don't get it. But then on the other hand, I think we may have discussed this recently on stream. I also have zero sense of self-preservation, because if I saw a bear in the wild, I would have to restrain myself from being like, hello, hello. You know, like that's not appropriate behavior, but I would want to do it. Just if they're creatures, I probably want to befriend them, damn it. That is 100% always my impulse all the time. It's probably good that I live in a city where I don't encounter a lot of creatures apart from, like, small birds, dogs, and the odd squirrel. Squirrels, also lovely. Also very, very lovely. It's like, you know, oh, yeah, sometimes some people refer to pigeons as flying rats, and I'm like, and they're, yes, because they're cute, and delightful, and actually pretty smart, and just the best in every way, and I love them. I love pigeons. Pigeons are delightful. Have you ever seen a pigeon and just thought, oh, hi, I hope you're having a good day? Because I do, all the time. There was this one time outside the bus stop near, like, the sort of a neighborhood center where I regularly go to do my shopping because they have good coffee and I like their supermarkets. And there were, like, someone had discarded or dropped, I guess, like a whole ass slice of pizza from Greg's. And Greg's is like a bakery chain here in the UK, so you go there and you get like sandwiches or a sausage roll or like a slice of pizza that's been sitting under a hot lamp for like an hour, you know, that kind of thing. Anyways, someone had dropped a Greg's pizza slice, which is also, there's a Greg's near the bus stop, so it's not surprising. Someone had dropped a Greg's pizza slice outside the bus stop, and the pigeons were just having like the biggest pizza party. And there was just like 24 pigeons descending on this pizza crust and just pecking away at it. Like, this is the best day of their lives, and it was so stinking cute. Just made me so happy. Anyways, what do rats eat? Welp, that depends. And yeah, most things. Because according to this one graphic, rats eat insects, fruits, grains, and vegetables. I guess that's kind of just like in the wild. But here are some other things that you can feed your pet rat, including, let me see, cooked liver, mealworms, plums, whole wheat bread, bok choy, yogurt, and pellets. That sounds like a delicious meal. Al Cool says, I once saw a few pigeons pecking away on a piece of dropped sausage. Aww. Aww. That must have been a lovely day for them. A sparrow was then trying to drag it away. Oh, sparrow, but they're so tittle. Little buddy. Maybe manage your expectations a little bit. Just, you know, just right. Oh, bless. Rats want a balanced diet according to the RSPCA. So make sure to give them some variety: fruits, vegetables, cooked eggs as well. Apparently, um, but make sure you don't overfeed them. The sparrow was not much bigger than the sausage. I'm not surprised. Oh, bless. I mean, sometimes I am tempted by things that come in very large portions, but less so these days now that I'm middle-aged. I look at things and I'm just like, challenge no longer accepted. I'm, I'm tired. Anyways, but there was a planter on feet nearby, and the sparrow managed to drag the sausage under there where the pigeons couldn't reach because they were too big. Oh, greedy little sparrow! Somebody needs to learn the lesson that sharing is caring. And that's also very funny. What an enterprising little buddy. Birds are so good. Birds are so smart. I love birds. I really do. I love sparrows. I love pigeons. I love, what other birds live in my neighborhood? I love magpies and jackdaws and corvids of various kinds, which also live in my neighborhood. Sparrows and goldcrests, which also live in my neighborhood, which are the smallest birds native to this country. They are so little. You don't see them that often because they're very small and therefore hard to spot, but when you do, it's a very special day. And obviously I love tits. But again, I have yet to find a way of saying this that doesn't make it sound like I'm saying the other thing that word means, which is also true. I am a extremely bisexual. Anyways, goldcrests are freaking magic, says Owlquill. They are. They're so cute. They're so beautiful. Like, if I was skilled and patient and had... Okay, I don't want to say it because obviously, like, the statement, your camera takes great photos, is incredibly condescending when you're speaking to someone who's a photographer. But also I recognize that the photographic equipment that I own is not adequate for the purposes of serious bird photography. Like, I've taken some really nice photos of birds, but if I were ever to, like, decide that I wanted to get into serious bird photography, I would need a significant upgrade to my camera setup. Specifically, thinking of, having a lens that zoomies better. Because most of the time when I'm taking a photo of a bird, if you get too close to most birds, they tend to scamper off real quick. They don't tend to stay still for super long. So trying to get a nice, like, close-in photo of a bird is quite challenging unless you can, sort of your camera is capable of reliably and without deterioration of quality being able to zoom, and close in on a space far away from you that is likewise, I forget where that sentence is going. There's bisexuals in our chat community, says Casa. I don't know if you knew this about me, but hi. I'm pretty sure you probably, I'm not good at not being out about it. At least not on the internet. Less so in, sort of my everyday life. But I do try and always have at least one pin on that signals to the outside world that I'm not cishet. Though lately it's been, I got this little Starfleet insignia pin that is made in the colors of the non-beanie pride flag, and I've been wearing that a lot. 'Cause I don't know, I just don't want to be mistaken for cishet, and I realize that there's not a lot else about me that says, hey, this person's queer, unless you speak to me for, like, a minute. Anyways. Cassa says, I was complaining to my mom that I can't take good photos of birds at my ground bird feeder because they camouflage against the stones. Oh no! Oh no! That is honestly... I did try and take some bird photos, like, with my phone camera at my in-laws' house because they have a feeder in their back garden, and so it's there's a lot more opportunity to see birds than out my personal window, right? Um, and oh man, was I fully incapable of getting photos of any manner of quality from that experience. Like they're so bad. I'm scrolling back through my photos to try and show you. Okay, this is an example of a photo that I took of some beautiful. I can tell that one of them is a tit and one of them is a brown blur, but it looks like it's it's being washed out by the camera here, but that's basically what you're getting. It's so grainy. I hate it. And that is rather zoomed in, because if I'm not zoomed in, you just couldn't see anything. Um, on the other hand, I did get some somewhat decent video footage of this little creature just going crazy at the that fat ball, and then so I don't want to show you too much because I don't want to dox my family. But anyways, a long-tailed tit, says Owl Quill. Hell yeah, there were a lot of tits in that. Tits and wagtails and greenfinches. Such a good area for birds. The land of the in-laws. Anyways, but yeah, no, it's just, man, the birds, they know how to camouflage themselves, which is good, but also really hard for bird photography, and that's why I paint birds. Anyways, 7-stream steak from Rex. Thank you very much for the steaks. I hope you enjoy your 7 steaks, Rex. I very much appreciate you being here. Hello, I hope you're well. How are you doing? Cass is probably more surprised when someone in our community say they're straight. I mean, anything's possible. Hot, says Moriax. Hell yeah, how are you doing, my friend? It's lovely to see you as well. Welcome in. Rex says, I do often feel like the minority now by saying I'm straight. I also don't care that I am, because it doesn't matter. It super doesn't matter. It super doesn't matter, and we love you. So there. Rex is one of the token straight. I know I'm straight because I played Hades and didn't feel anything. You know, sometimes you do some soul searching and you arrive at a conclusion, and sometimes that soul searching comes in the form of playing a video game where all of the characters are drawn really hotly. You know, generally, like, I'm not a particularly thirsty individual. Despite how I play Fields of Mystria, I'm not a particularly thirsty individual in general. I don't know. I can look at a person and be objectively like, yeah, they're good looking. But like, I don't, notwithstanding my moderator / spouse, who's my best friend, who I'm like deeply in love with, and I think is the most beautiful person to ever exist. And obviously I'm only friends with hot people, so if you and I are friends, you're hot stuff, congratulations. Because I'm extremely shallow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't legit thirst particularly. I don't know if that's just because I'm old or just figured stuff out about myself as I got older. But my farmer in Fields of Mystery, on the other hand, absolutely wants to bone down with half of the residents of that village. Unfortunately, some of them are happily married, and unfortunately, at least as of the last time I played, there wasn't an option to just, like, date / become part of a throuple with 2 NPCs who are married to each other. 'Cause I'm telling you, the husband and wife who run the tavern in that game could absolutely both get it. 100%. And once again, I'm saying this on behalf of my farmer. Cassis says I'm too ace to thirst. That is also extremely valid. I still don't know if I'm actually like some flavor of ace. I probably am. But it's... getting into the weeds of that is much too personal information for the stream. So I'm just gonna drink my tea instead. But yay, pals who are some flavor of ace. Yay! I'm Grey Ace. I thirst like once or twice a decade, says Alquil. Yeah. It's like the last time I had a celebrity crush, it was less of a. It wasn't like a celebrity, oh my god, they're so hot, and I dream of, I don't know, seeing them without a shirt on and giving them kisses. And it was more like, oh my god, they're so fun. And from what I've learned about them in interviews, we have things in common. And how cool would it be if, like, me and my spouse and them and their wife all went out for, like, brunch and then visited a museum? That would be a super fun afternoon, and I think we would have a good time being friends. And that, like, that's it. That was the extent to which I celebrity crushed. And then I was like, you know, I'm going to distance myself from this because I feel uncomfortable having this much of a parasocial relationship with anybody. I have a weird relationship with parasociality. In as much as, I mean, it's in most instances it's fine. It's just something that I think it has a negative connotation culturally, but it's just something that happens when someone exists or does something or is a public figure in some way, and they have an audience who recognizes them for that, but they don't necessarily know anything about those audience members, you know what I mean? Like, there are probably people who watch this stream or, you know, watch my YouTube videos or, you know, following me on social media who have never actually verbally interacted with me. Like, we don't talk, like, I'm not familiar with them at all, but they're familiar with the things that I do. That's a parasocial relationship. That's fine, you know? Like, I'm out here producing entertainment. I understand that people are going to consume the things that I create and not necessarily interact, and we don't necessarily know each other. We're not necessarily friends. That's normal. But but yeah, just at some point I started to get like, this whole, like, this person is really cool was always fairly mild in my mind. It was like, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. I don't really care. Like, I don't know them as people, you know what I mean? And I tend to prefer having a bit of distance from, like, certainly famous people in that way. Less so with, like, streamers whose chats I chat in. That's just nice and having a fun time and making acquaintances and sometimes friends, which is awesome. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah. But I don't really want to know things about, like, famous people that I'm never actually going to interact with, or if I do, the interaction is going to be extremely, like, you know, brief and shallow. Like meeting somebody at a signing or something like that, you know what I mean? I don't want to know stuff about them. That feels, it's such a normal thing to do, but for some reason I'm just like, no, I'm uncomfortable. To which end, I started watching an interview with an actor that I admire recently. I got 5 minutes into, you know, sort of like the intro. It was like a 90-minute long interview. I got about 5 minutes into it, and one of the first questions was like, what music are you listening to a lot of lately? And he was like, oh, you know, a lot of, like, older stuff. I've been listening to a lot of Sibelius. And I'm just like, huh? I've been listening to a lot of Sibelius? We have something in common. I have to leave now. And then I just stopped watching. I didn't want to watch the rest of the interview because I was like, I do not want to find out I have things in common with this person and wish we were friends, because that's a weird place to be and I'm uncomfortable with it. Anyways. Casa says, like, people are pretty, but so are cats. That is so real. That is so real. Oh my god, cats are lovely. Cats are some of the best people, frankly. When they do that thing where they sit with their little paws like this, and they look so polite. I love that. That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing that cats do, is when they sit with their little paws crossed in front of them and they look all polite. Anyways. Moriak says, let's play Who from Our Flag Means Death to Sammy Want to Friend Date. Absolutely none of them. No one and none of them is the answer currently, and that's probably how it will remain. If I ever somehow manage to, like, bullshit my way into the entertainment industry, I would work with David Jenkins. Um, I don't think that's parasocial so much as I would really love to write a bit for TV. There is no way that this is going to happen with the state of the entertainment industry here in the United Kingdom at the moment. It's crappy, and the barriers to entry are practically impenetrable, especially if you are not from a wealthy background. Um, it's a bad time to want to write for TV or, you know, a film that you're not filming yourself on your iPhone and posting to YouTube. But in an extremely non-parasocial, non like anything way, I would absolutely work with David Jenkins on a project. Um, just like as a professional, I would work with David Jenkins on the project. Anyways, uh, that is absolutely nowhere near the answer to that question. Um, Cassa says, last night I went to see a group where all four members have said they're happy with any pronouns. Um, and use the girl and occur a lot. I'm so confused. Occur? I don't know that one. But that's also awesome. Hey, you know what? Any pronouns are a rad pronoun set to have. So there you go. That reminds me of a question I've got about pronouns, but I'll get back onto that when I'm finished catching up with chat. Moriac says, I mean, I like to think we're friends. It's been like 5 or 6 years. Of course we are, my friend. See, I just called you my friend. There you go. Anyways, I'm glad you think so. Thank you. Thank you. Q2 wants me to hydrate. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee, which is almost gone and very cold. This coffee bean is from Honduras. It was roasted in beautiful Milton Keynes, United Kingdom. And it's really good. It's a little fruity and a little caramel. And it tastes like I've added skimmed milk to it, so you know. Yum! Thank you. Cool. Anyways, sorry, that clap was incredibly loud. It wasn't meant to be. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, what was I gonna... Oh, shoot! What was I gonna say? Oh, no! No pretzels! I had something to say. And it's fully... I'm awake, says Sammy Ann. Sammy Ann, I'm so sorry. Also, good morning. Hello. I hope you're having a lovely Thursday. What was I gonna say? Something to do with writing. There was a point. I had one. I'm sure I did. Oh god, did I... Oh no, did I rupture any eardrums then? I really hope not. I'm learning lots, says Sammy, and yay! Glad to hear that, too. Where was I? My train of thought has completely left the station without me. Rex is playing it up. Okay, cool. But I did see that it went like, you know, when the down beneath me here in my stream software, because all of my little like my audio mixer settings are underneath the picture that I can see. When the mic setting goes just like a full bar of red instead of having like green, yellow, and then red, it's all right if the bar just dips into red territory, but if the whole thing just goes red for a long time, it means I'm being too loud. So I try not to do that. Oh, yes, that reminds me, actually. There was a period where possibly just by someone maneuvering it at some point that I didn't realize so my microphone, which is over here on this side of me. Hello, this is my microphone. I'm speaking very, very close to can you hear me? Can you hear me? This is the microphone. Anyways, it's on this side of me. Anyways, microphone. I think the gain on the actual physical mic itself had been slightly like knocked down a little bit. Very clearly says Alcohol, yay! Sammy says, the train got rolling, you waved a goodbye, and then went, shoot, I was supposed to be on that. My life in summary. That's such a mood, Sammy, and it really is. Ah, beans. Anyways, I do love trains, though. I do love trains. That's one of the flavors of autism that I got, is the train autism. More so the railways and railway stations than the trains themselves. But you know, a good train is also pretty neat. Anyways, I like to basically straddle the cusp of yellow and red, but without peaking, says Rex. That's a good place to be. That's a good place to be. I tend to be fairly quiet, I think, but also, again, I don't want to rupture people's eardrums, and I think it depends on what I'm up to. But anyways, there was this time on stream where I think at some point something had like bumped the gain on my actual physical mic, and I hadn't realized it because the stream was fairly quiet, but all of the audio settings on the actual streaming software seemed fine, right? So far you haven't come close to rupturing my eardrums. Yay, good, I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, I think the gain got slightly like knocked down by like a fraction of a millimeter, but that does make a difference. And I know this is like a somewhat quiet stream, but I prefer it that way. But someone came into chat and like one of their first messages was just like, "Do you realize you're really quiet?" And I'm like, I mean, this is a fairly quiet stream, but is anyone else having problems? And no one else no one else reported having problems hearing me or anything like that. There didn't seem to be any like major issues. I did bump the gain ever so slightly later on sort of like, you know, going through VODs and go that VOD versus like a previous VOD and that kind of thing, and trying to figure out where the setting should be. But this person like just kept bothering me about how like, you know, oh, you're like your stream is too quiet and that's bad, and just being like blah blah blah. Just trying to help smiley face, but was really like just, you know, being like a condescending and mean kind of mansplainy dude about it. And my response to receiving any kind of feedback from a condescending and mean mansplainy dude is to not do whatever it is you want me to do. As far as I'm concerned, there's a difference between someone letting me know, hey, your mic is muted, and like effectively trying to backseat stream. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe you should just, you know, if it bothers you that much, maybe you should just leave. There's a fun idea. You know, I'm committed to making my stream as good as I can possibly make it, which is pretty janky because I have terrible skills. I can't afford the most expensive equipment, and I just don't really care about having like mega swish graphics and all of the bells and whistles and visual stuff, because partially because I think that it's nice to kind of have a haven from all that stuff. That's not being like, I love a lot of streams that have like complicated and involved and detailed like overlays and other elements happening on the screen at the same time as the stream is happening. I love all that stuff. I really do. But I also think it's kind of nice to have variety in the kinds of streams that you can watch, because not everybody wants that much visual stuff all the time. And so I like having a space that's a little quieter and a little bit more minimalist for when someone might appreciate that experience. You know what I mean? Anyways, point being, the one thing that really got me about this person, and I notice people doing this from time to time, and I find it very, even when I see it happening to other people, I find it very annoying. When you are right here, like I, the streamer, am right here. You can speak directly to me in chat. And they said something like, she doesn't realize her stream is too quiet. In the chat. Like, what? Like, why are you speaking about me in the third person? Who are you speaking to about me? It's such a weird thing to do. And number one, like, this is how I... thinking about this the other day, because I saw it happen to somebody else and it got me thinking about it. Number one, that's how I learned the etymology of the phrase, what am I, chopped liver? I never knew what that meant. It just sort of washed over me as a phrase, and I never really gave it any thought. But it turns out that saying, what am I, chopped liver, is in response to someone speaking about you while you are, instead of to you while you're in the conversation. And I like that. I'm keeping that in my back pocket now. That's such a such a good phrase to have. But also, yeah, the obviously if I'm say telling a story about like, oh, the last time I saw, you know, Jenny and we went to this concert and we did this, that, and the other, I'm going to be referring to her instead of talking to her. But it's a different thing when like oh, this was somebody posted a YouTube like a short video to YouTube. It was in the YouTube short section. So someone posted a short video to YouTube, and someone made a comment in the comment section of this video, replying to this woman's video, and said she just wants attention, lol. And I just thought, it feels the same. It feels like you're not speaking to her. You're speaking about her, and somehow that makes it feel more rude. I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't, no, I don't like that. Ugh. Anyways. Right, catching up with chat. Casa says, I was excited by my train trip yesterday because I never get to take the train home after a concert without a hotel stay in between. The excitement of going to my own bed. Oh, I love that for you. I love that for you. It has been quite some time since the last time I got to do that after a show. Because yeah, they usually end late enough that I don't really want to be getting back to my city of residence and then taking a bus to my home within my city of residence at stupid o'clock in the morning. Partially because the buses run like once an hour after midnight, and I don't really want to potentially be spending 50 minutes standing at a bus stop in what is now feeling like an abandoned part of town in the dark by myself. No. Pass. Hard pass. So normally if I want to see a show and it happens to be sort of like in the big city or whatever, I end up having to get a room at the Ibis. And I do love this one particular hotel, which is the Ibis in... If you're ever in London and you like trains and stuff, the Ibis in Canning Town, if you get a room on the correct side of the building, and I always have, every time I've ever stayed there, I've always had a room on the correct side of the building, which I'm very grateful for, you can see all of the trains passing in and out of Canning Town Station, because it's directly across the street, and it's a really good view, and it's like my favorite, thing about staying overnight in London, is going to the hotel and getting to see all of the trains pulling in and out of the station. Like, nominally, I'm here for other reasons, but mostly, I like to see the trends from my hotel room window. Anyways. Rex says liver is canonically sentient until you chop it, then it goes deaf. Oh, God. Well, that's a terrifying thought. I hate that. Rex says someone was posting a video to YouTube wants attention. There's no way. There's no way that's why people make content for others to watch. It was such a stupid comment to make as well. It's like, obviously, yes, they shared this video. Obviously, they want people to view it. But, it feels like there's just an added level of, like, I don't, like, you're so dumb, I'm not even going to speak to you directly. I'm speaking to an imagined audience who agrees with me that she just wants attention. It's like, ew. It just, immediately, I'm just like, you suck. As a person, I don't like you. Anyways, but, yeah, I was in bed by 11 p.m., says Casa. Good times. That is you. Wow, Casa, you were living the dream. That's delightful. I feel like I could pull that off if I ever went to shows in my own city of residence. And believe me, there's a thriving arts scene here in my city of residence. I just rarely, if ever, go out in the evening at all. If I do, it's probably to the cinema, and I haven't been to the cinema since my husband and I went to the cinema. Sorry, my moderator/spouse and I went to the cinema when they re-released Revenge of the Sith, because he'd never seen it in the cinema. I believe he didn't actually see it in the cinema on its first release, and he's like, I gotta do it. And I was like, okay. And it was also his birthday, so it was, a special occasion. Um, and so we went to see that together. And that was really, really fun. Um, we don't really even go to the cinema that much anymore. There's like one movie that's nominally interested me, but not enough to actually go to the cinema to see it. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Sammy Ann says, I used to work past pub closing as a young lady. Uncomfortable times. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's awful. That's a terrible time to try to get home. Ugh. No. No. I hope at least your paths were well lit. There are some bus routes, because I can take, like, there's enough bus routes in my area that depending on how long I feel like walking to get to my house, I could take more than one bus, and it changes, sort of the walk that I would take to get home. But I always take the one with the shortest walk back to my house if it's after dark, because there are some pathways and, like, sort of streets and stuff in this area that aren't necessarily like, ooh, this area is unsafe, safety risk, blah 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 blah. Not like I think this neighborhood generally is fine. I think the city in general is fine, and the, sort of like suburbs and satellite neighborhoods of the city, whatever, are fine. But I don't want to. I'm just going to feel creeped out and scared walking through dimly lit, like alleyways or walkways or streets or whatever, when it's dark out. That's just scary. And I don't like it. So yeah. But heck. Hassa says, LGBTQ flavor K-pop concert, 11 p.m. bedtime. Perfect. Oh my goodness, that's perfect. I love that for you. More shows should be on that schedule. One of the things I always back when I lived in Canada, one of the things I always struggled with was the fact that, like, when I was younger, I was, I think, a lot braver and also had more energy for just, like, going out on a random, sort of Wednesday night to go see some bands or what have you. But at least at the time back, and I think it's better in a lot of places here in the UK. Certainly there are, like, curfews that are enforced and that kind of thing. Especially if you're in a venue that's got, like, neighboring buildings where there's going to be noise transfer. Oftentimes, they have, like, a strict, like, the show has to finish at 11 p.m. kind of thing, which I really appreciate, because I remember the straw that broke the camel's back. So, in my hometown at the time, this is going back, like, probably, 15, 20 years, something like that, but in my hometown at the time, the city buses stopped running at midnight. The last bus of the night going out of the city center into, the various, like, neighborhoods and areas that all of the bus routes went into was at midnight. So if you wanted to get home on the bus, you had to get on the midnight bus, otherwise you were just effed, right? I was sitting in a venue in the city center, which was a lovely bar, with a lovely stage and all that jazz. Lots of shows played there. Good place. Doors open at 9. I get there at 9 p.m. Nobody asks me to pay to get in. They haven't set up at all, but the bar's open. So I just go up to the bar, get myself, like, a glass of water or juice or whatever, and find someplace quiet to sit down and start reading while they're doing sound checks and what have you. And while I sit there for about 45 minutes to an hour, and I overhear someone who is, the room has started to fill in by that point. I overhear someone ask a member of staff when Yukon Blonde, because that's the band who were headlining this gig, were due to come on stage. And the man said, around 1 a.m. And that's when I went home. And I figured no harm done, cut my losses, had a nice time reading a book at a bar, go home. Because if I'd wanted to see that entire gig, which I did, I wouldn't have been able to get home. Without having to get a very expensive cab out to the suburbs. So, you know, F that. I'm too old for that nonsense. Anyways, we're about to have a BRB, so I will send you the BRB screen now. And then maybe we'll actually paint, because we haven't yet. Sleep is good for you, says Alquill. Oh my god, sleep is the best. It's one of my favorite things. It's extremely important for your health. Sleep hygiene is important. Anyways, I love you all. I'll be back in a minute. Have a drink, have a stretch, do all that jazz. I'm sorry if you have to see ads. BRB. That's better. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Welcome back. Hope that the break was okay. It's nice to be back. And in other news, while we were away, I did one thing relating to the painting, and that is that I wet my paintbrush, which means I can actually do some painting now. Huzzah! I'm once again going to pull up because believe it or not, there's a reference photo that I've been using for this painting. And I'm gonna have to scroll through my photos for a hot minute here because this photo's from like 2019, I think. So it predates when I got this phone. But it is on here, 2020 to the summer of 2019. That's Christmas 2019. Ooh, Christmas 2019 was the year that I made these. Man, that's an ugly picture. But I made specifically these tie-dye gingerbread cookies that it's hard to see, but man, they looked like funky little like the way that the tie-dye frosting worked on the gingerbread biscuits, because they were all sort of irregular shapes as well. They ended up looking like precious stones. It was very fun and cool. I would do that again, except for the fact that I don't actually really like using frosting in my baked goods, just because I feel like it's just, I don't know. It's like a glaze or a frosting has its places for me, but a lot of the time it just feels like additional empty sugar that isn't really adding much in the way of flavor unless I like undersweeten the item itself. I'd rather just the item itself be sweet enough, I guess. Anyways, point being, that's just me. That's just my personal preference for what I like to make, though. That's not necessarily it's not necessarily what I would also eat. Where is it? Okay, we're into October 2019. Blah 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 blah. A ton of photos I can probably delete. Here's a picture of me and moderator / spouse on a date. We went to our local nice pub that does really good dinners. That's not particularly remarkable. We do that several times a year. Anyways, Beans, where are you? Where are you? Oh, here's a picture of me from the dressing room of Uniqlo, having tried on a dress that I then didn't buy, and looking at it now, I really wish I had, because it's really cute and comfy. I want to own that, but that's from 7 years ago, and guess what? There's no way they still sell it. Oh, pretzels. I'm silly. Past me made a horrible mistake. They should have bought that dress. It looks really comfy. Okay, this is our reference photo. It's not... It's getting a little bit washed out and is not being represented super well by, like, the light. If I bring it in a bit, you can at least see that, like, the clouds aren't all blown out, for one thing. But I've got this band of, like trees and shrubs at the back here, that I'm now going to need to paint in. So I've got my little reference up here so that I can look and see what we're dealing with. So it is a couple shades darker than the grass and dirt combo that our Hans is hanging out on. So to make that, I am going to use some of this green, which is an insane green, but I'm going to add quite a bit of blue to it. And then just try and get it as dark as I can. Let me make sure that this is blue. Yes, cobalt. I see the word cobalt. I recognize that it is a blue. But this is a weird palette. And I chose this palette in particular because it works really well with, like, the warm colors. And I want a really nice warmishness happening in the in the horse parts of this painting. I'm trying to aim for my aim is for the background to be all kind of, you know, sort of greenish and green adjacent, and then have a really nice pop of like red, yellow, orange with like the flaming horse hair, as it were. So that's the plan, anyways. So we'll see how we get on with that. I'm gonna pre-wet this section, but I do actually already have a little bit of paint on here, and that's good because this also needs to be a little darker. So I want to be using more paint here than I have for my other segments. It should be darker and a little bit grayer because it's further away. And that's usually a good way to establish further awayness, is to have things be a little less vibrant because they're a little further away from us. Anyways, but yeah, this was the, I think the one and only visit I've ever made to the New Forest, which I'm fairly sure is not actually that new at all. Now, correct me if I'm incorrect here, because I'm not a British-born person, as you may be able to tell from my accent, though I don't know, because having met other Canadians in this country, I feel like I've picked up somewhat more of a, as some of my Canadian resident friends refer to it, a lilt since moving here. So I honestly don't know. I don't know what I sound like at this point. But I am, I was not born here, but if memory serves, the New Forest is quite elderly at this point, actually. Maybe not by the standards of a forest, but it's certainly not as new as, say, a new town in this country. To circle back to Milton Keynes, which was mentioned earlier, I'd be interested, you know, actually, speaking of Milton Keynes, I'd be interested to know, does anyone, like... My experiences with Milton Keynes are largely visiting and being baffled by it. If you're not familiar with Milton Keynes, there was sort of in, like, the mid-20th century, there were a few, like, new towns that were just kind of created to, because people needed places to live, I guess, that were potentially within commuting distance of, larger, areas, but not, you know, within them, but also involved, you know, like, were large enough communities that they involved a reasonable amount of city planning of their own. And Milton Keynes, I think, is a really interesting example of this. It's an interesting example of a city that, and it also kind of, in so doing, it kind of absorbed a number of, like, smaller sort of villages and towns that were already there. But Milton Keynes itself was like this new entity that was built sort of in the mid 20th century and became a new city. And I feel like it was very much predicated on the principle that motor cars are the thing. Everyone wants to have a motor car. Everyone has a car now. People are going to be driving places. People want to be able to drive places. This is a place for people with cars. But additionally, this is also a walkable place in a weird way. But my limited experience of Milton Keynes is that, like, technically you can go for walks there, but, like, where are you going? Because there aren't really, it's not like an older town or city design where there's like an obvious city center. Cassis is basically, yeah, it's a London commuter town. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of, I think, north-ish of London. Um, and yeah, you can like you can get the train to London from there. There's a lot of places like that. But this one in particular is just designed so weirdly, and I hate it. I hate it a lot. It's, yeah, Cassis has American style grid. It's very much on this like very un-British feeling grid system of streets, but additionally there isn't like an obvious also, can I just say I love this color that we've gotten here for the backgroundy stuff. I think it looks so nice. I'm so glad I nailed that on the first try. Like, that looks really good. I think it looks better in person, but maybe when there's less of a sheen on it from the wet paint, and I will give that a minute to dry down before we start doing other stuff with this. But yeah, so it's on this like very, I don't know, it's weird. Like, the American style grid system just makes sense and feels good and fine when I'm in New York City, but experiencing something similar to it in like a British city feels wrong and bad. You know, but then on the other hand, I live in an extremely medieval city myself. And yeah, anyways. But there are places in this country that are not medieval cities. But I think the other thing that's really telling about it, and about the idea of it being sort of like this kind of satellite commuter town where it's pretty much expected that people are reliant on cars here, even though there are specifically planned out like walking routes and that kind of thing. There was an interesting YouTube video on, can you walk across Milton Keynes and not have to see or interact with cars? And the answer is yeah, but like, are these routes actually useful from a, you know, getting around town perspective? I'm not convinced. But it means that there really isn't a meaningful, like, I wanted to, like, I've been to like technically sort of the city center of Milton Keynes, and I didn't realize that's where I was the first time I went, because I came out of the railway station into a massive car park and like some, actually no, I took a bus to Milton Keynes and then went into the railway station. That's right. Anyways, took a bus to Milton Keynes, get to this like, you know, sort of bus depot-y area, and then there's just like a massive car park, which I guess is where you drive your car to the railway station and then you get the train into London, is the intention, I suppose. But the area surrounding this just felt like, I don't know, just like a business park, like in, you know, sort of, you know, like if it, like a business estate kind of thing, like just a set of like what felt like office buildings. And never mind, hi Lee. Hello.
Oh hell yeah, Leaky just subscribed. Bomb 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 bomb.
Excellent job, TTS Nicole. You read that seamlessly. Leaky, thank you so much for 15 months of sub. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Oh, wait, wrong noise. Oh, that was a beautiful noise. No takesy backsies. I enjoyed that noise. Anyways, hi, we're talking about Milton Keynes and the dystopian hellscape of it all. It's just a very weird place. And I don't know. I haven't seen any defenses of Milton Keynes as like a place in terms of like vibes and concept that were not an extremely lukewarm defense, shall we say. I think one of the defenses that you can say is that there are pedestrian sort of walkable like footpaths going through it that take you away from roads with cars that do get you across town. That's nice. That's great. You know what? That is the one instance of city planning that I am here for with Milton Keynes. But okay, you know what? I'm going to pull up a picture of just like a bird's eye view of Milton Keynes so you can see what the hell it is I'm talking about. Because I think actually being able to visualize this is really gonna help here, because oh god. oh yeah, it's just, it is, it exists, and it's weird. Um, Imagine if the US grid system and the Swindon Magic Roundabout had babies. Oh, Swindon. I don't have very many good things to say about Swindon either, but then my experience of Swindon is deeply personal and has entirely to do with, like, bad things happening on Great Western Railway. And I generally don't have terrible things to say about GWR as a train carrier. They're fine. Um, but every bad experience I've had with GWR has been at Swindon Station. And one of which was unrelated to the trains. There was a problem somewhere up ahead on the line, and we had to change trains to one that wasn't going all the way through Swansea. We were going to, I think, Bath or Bristol, maybe, on this trip. So taking, like, the London to points west, effectively, GWR train, on the, like, goes west main line. But we had to change at Swindon, and it just so happens that I suddenly came over really unwell and spent the rest of it. Oh yeah, it was a day trip to Bristol. I spent the rest of our day trip to Bristol being sort of like pale and shaky and feeling like I was going to throw up. So that's not the train company's fault, but it happened at Swindon, and so I'm personally biased against Swindon. The other time was there was a problem with the trains, so they had to stop at Swindon, make everyone get off the train and onto another train that already had 2 trains worth of people on it. And then we sat there for another, on this extremely packed sardine train in the vestibule for another 45 minutes before we finally trundled incredibly slowly to Didcot. It was horrific. Oh, and also, I had come down with a cold that weekend. So I was feeling extremely vulnerable and unwell and, like, just, I was wearing a well-fitted mask at least, because I didn't really want to be packed in breathing on that many people while I had a cold. It was awful. Anyways, point being, Milton Keynes. Shoot, hold, please. I have to do a thing so that you can see my screen. This is my Instagram. It's my Instagram. Most recently, I posted Craig, the Toad Wizard, who you may remember. I also posted about my wedding anniversary, and people always like my personal posts way more than my art posts. I don't know if that's the algorithm, or people just prefer me as a person to my artistic output. Anyways, here is a bird's eye view of Milton Keynes. Do you see the problem at all here? Do you see what we're talking about? It is just, it's rectangles. This city is rectangles and some roundabouts. And what passes for the city center feels like a business park that you're not really meant to loiter around as just a pedestrian trying to go to some shops. There's nothing about it that, like, feels like a place that you're supposed to, like, linger in or visit or want to be. It just feels like it's there for you to park your car and then go away from. I don't know how else to explain. It's just that normally a city has somewhat of an organically developed city or town center where, like a large number of, shops and other places of business, doctors' offices, and, that kind of thing tend to be clustered. Banks, etc., etc. And then you'll have, like satellite, like neighborhood centers and that kind of thing that, similarly people might be able to walk to more locally and go to Tesco to buy eggs or go visit their local bank branch. Not that we have any local bank branches in my neighborhood anymore because they all closed. Not that I'm salty. Also, we recently lost our post office, which I am salty about because I sometimes have to use the services of the post office as someone who posts things from my shop. I have a shop, by the way. This stream has been brought to you by me. I have a shop. Here it is. Have at it if you want to. No pressure, of course. But yeah, so I found Milton Keynes extremely baffling when I was there. I didn't really spend a lot of time trying to, like, explore the city center that as an entity simply does not exist as such. in as much as I was there to see friends who lived in the area whenever I did visit. And thankfully, everyone I used to know who lived in the greater Milton Keynes area has moved away. Unfortunately, they moved further afield. So I haven't seen them in quite some time. But you know, love that for them that they moved away from Milton Keynes, because I hate Milton Keynes. It's just, ugh. Also, when they moved away from Milton Keynes, we inherited some stuff they didn't want to take with them. So we had a really nice free Hoover for quite a few years. I think only the last like 2 years or so we had to replace. So that was nice. And I do technically have an acoustic guitar that I inherited from some friends who were moving out of Milton Keynes. Have I used the guitar? No. Do I know how to play guitar? I used to. Have I used my current guitar? No. And the answer for why is A, I'm nervous, and B, I don't want to bother the neighbors by playing loud music and having to practice loud music, which frankly I shouldn't be worried about because like the downstairs neighbors are extremely shouty, loud people who turn their TV up to 100 just on the regular. It sucks. And I hate it. So frankly, I feel lightly entitled to be allowed to listen to to make them listen to me practicing how to play alternative songs from the 90s on my acoustic guitar. But it's scary, and I haven't. I mostly drive through Milton Keynes and not visit, says Leaky. Every roundabout seems to allocate straight on into a different lane. Oh, yay! Yay! Yeah, no, I don't know. I find Milton Keynes deeply intimidating and not somewhere I would enjoy living, I don't think. It's just too... It's just, like, where... I very much enjoy the coffee that I got that was roasted in the vicinity of Milton Keynes, but, I don't think I'd want to live there. I mean, even just trying to find pictures of, like, I don't know, some salubrious areas of Milton Keynes and really coming up with struggles here. Because it's just... Yeah. It's just... It doesn't feel good. I spent too much childhood there, says Casa. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Also, I'm sorry to anyone who, like, lives in Milton Keynes and loves it there. You are allowed to have a differing opinion to me. Obviously, your experience of it is going to be very different to mine if you, like, lived there or live there. You probably know, like, secrets about, like, cool places to go that I would not, as someone who's only ever passed through it, and, like, visited people, in, like, the suburbs of it. But, as an experiment in city planning, it's interesting. But I don't think they should repeat it. You know? I don't know. Anyways. What I am gonna do now, I think, is I'm gonna get rid of this masking fluid from these little haunces. So we can actually maybe color in the haunces. Which would be fun and good. But is this paint still wettish? No, it's pretty dry. Okay. Man, these background horses are so derpy. Don't look too closely at them. Someone asked me if they were squirrels. They're horses. You can't see their legs anymore because their legs are sticks because they're so little. Like, here's my fingy for comparison. Okay, it's fine. Leaky says it must be weird living in the old Middleton village surrounded entirely by Milton Keynes. Ha! Yeah. I mean, like, certainly a lot of larger settlements will have, like, an old town area. But of Milton Keynes? Weird. That would be super weird. I feel like I'm gonna take a sip of my tea, which is it remains a this is a roasted black tea from Japan. Um, so it's like it's got the vibe of black tea, but it also has mildly the vibe of like hojicha, but with like the raisininess of black tea, which is a really nice combination. Pigeon, hello. Have I said hello, Pigeon? Hello, Pigeon. I hope you are well. It's lovely to see you. Welcome on in. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome. I was complaining about Milton Keynes. I'm sorry. But also, you know, I'm not. It's weird. But that's just the bee in my bonnet about it, I suppose. Could I do better as a city planner? I don't probably know. I'm not an expert in those kinds of things. I'm an expert in recognizing when I don't like those kinds of things, that's for sure. I'm an expert in complaining. I'm such an old person these days. I do complain when, like, when, you know, planning permission is so there's where there used to be a post office in this one neighborhood in my city that was in that was inside a supermarket that I don't know how that supermarket stayed open for so long because no one ever shopped there, and it was too expensive and bad. But there were plans for ages to close down that supermarket and to build something else. Originally, they wanted to build a hotel, and this is like a stupid location for a hotel because this isn't an area that like hotel guests are ever going to want to stay in. It's like a random, very, you know, not particularly exciting neighborhood, like small neighborhood center on the outskirts of a mid-sized city. No one wants a hotel here. But the concern about the hotel was it was going to be quite tall, and it happens to face across the street. There's a park that has a lot of beautiful trees, and it would be blocking the sun from those trees, and those trees were going to probably, you know, die because they weren't getting any sunlight. So they successfully blocked that planning application for long enough that they gave up. But there's now going to be, I don't know, like some offices and stuff being built there, but it's really, it's what's annoying about it is that there's no longer a post office in that neighborhood. It sucks. Anyways, but, yes, Pigeon says, I'm chowing down some cottage pie made with 100% real cottage. Aw, man, delightful. I've been eating a lot of cottage cheese lately, which is nothing like cottage pie, but when I saw cottage, my brain went cheese. Anyways, I hope your cottage cheese is good. I hope it's, not your cottage cheese. I hope your cottage pie is good. Oh my god. I have cottage cheese disease. Oh no. I'm not one of those influencers who's doing, like, cottage cheese hacks and putting it in everything. I just like having a nice little dish of cottage cheese with a sprinkle of sugar and cinnamon as a yummy little treat. Because I used to eat it when I was little, and it was very comforting to me. Anyways. But I hope your cottage pie is good. I hope it's not too fibrous with the delicious flavor of, you know, like wood beams and thatched roof, and try not to break your teeth on any stones. But I hope it's delicious. And now I found myself doing a Poundbury rabbit hole, says Leaky. Oh, Poundbury. Oh, Poundbury. Poundbury's weird. The most texture of all the cheeses. It certainly does have a texture, that cottage cheese. I think it's useful in cooking if you, like, you know, blend it into a smoothness and put it, you know, used it in like a pasta sauce or something like that. I'm sure that could be pretty good. But I just like it as a snack with some, a little sprinkle of sugar and cinnamon. I don't know. It's what I grew up with. It's very cozy to me. If you're not familiar with Poundbury is, where is Poundbury? Where is it? I don't remember where it is, but it is effectively sort of like a suburb town um of an existing um but I can't remember. It's down attached to Dorchester. Thank you. Attached to Dorchester because they needed more houses and suburby stuff. But instead of just creating like a normal suburb, they created this place called Poundbury, and um the guy who's now the reigning monarch was instrumental in the development of this place at the time, because he wanted, he felt like, also hi Tals, welcome in. Dorchester's in the south of England, if that helps. But he wanted to create this town that wasn't like the ugly, sort of crappy, soulless new architecture towns which he thought were bad. Um, Basically, he wanted a town that looked and felt like, one of the nice, cozy old villages. Except that, you've got this, like, sort of not like 18th and 19th century looking architecture, but it was all built in like the 1980s, which is weird. It's weird. But additionally, in places where in like a traditional old market town you'd have like a little market square with like, some greenery and like places to sit and get a coffee and blah 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 blah. Here you have parking space in those, like, it's car parks. It's some Georgian looking buildings and car parks. And it's just, so it doesn't feel authentically like, some place that has existed since like the 17th or 18th century. It feels, as Leaky says, it looks like if Japan opened a Bridgerton theme park. That's it exactly. It's like it's like an I'm thinking of, yes, exactly. It's like the Disneyland version of England. Bingo. Yes, Casa, exactly. There is a theme park in Japan called Haus ten Bosch, and it is intended to it is a Netherlands themed theme park. So there are areas where it feels kind of like you could be walking down a canal street in Amsterdam, but not quite. Like, it's a reproduction of these things with this style of architecture. There's, I think there's a hotel or something where the architecture is inspired by, like, sort of the central railway station in Amsterdam, and there's windmills and tulip gardens and all that kind of thing. It still doesn't, it's not quite the same. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh hell yeah, Tiles_are now just subscribed. Happy Thursday.
And a very happy Thursday to you too. Thank you so much for the 6 months of sub. My goodness gracious, that is almost a year. Thank you so much. I just, my paintbrush attached itself to my sleeve and fell off of the desk. So let me just, retrieve that real quick. Oh no, now it's covered in dust. Oh, no, you mustn't see my shame. Let me just clean it. Anyways, goodbye paint. Anyways, so yeah, that's, so yeah, to me anyways, Poundbury looks like, it looks a lot like actual theme park in Japan that isn't intended to replicate the experience of being, in like a European city. It's like that Thames Town in China. I don't know Thames Town. Oh my goodness. And I mean, I think that these theme parks are cool. I think it's neat. Having been to the Netherlands, I am tempted to go to the Netherlands theme park in Japan. There is also like a pretend English village somewhere in Japan as well, where you can go to like a pub and get fish and chips and marvel at the little buildings. I think it's kind of on a smaller scale though. I think there's like a shop where you can buy selected British treats and get like a little bear that's dressed like a beefeater, that kind of thing. That's for someone who can't necessarily afford to just go and spend 2 days in Amsterdam because it's literally on the other side of the world, I can see the appeal. But in terms of turning this concept into like an actual, you know, suburb that people live in, it's weird. It's real weird. Like, I don't hate the concept in as much as I like the way that like older buildings look compared to a lot of the newer stuff, but it's still, it has a very uncanny vibe to it. It looks a little like a film set. But yeah, let me see if I can show. Here's a picture of sort of a central area of Poundbury. Again, this building in the middle here, I'm pretty sure is called the Butter Market according to Google image search. It has never been a butter market. It again was built in like the 80s. It's just a very weird place. It's a very weird place. I don't know. It's weird. I get the intent kind of, but also it's weird. It's real weird. I need to look up this Thames town. Cause what? Oh, it's weird. That's really that. It looks like Poundbury. That's wow. Yup, that is exactly what it's. Oh, hello, this is Oxford Street. Let's just pull up this image of Oxford Street because I love that. Oh, that's a really tiny image, but I'll just zoom it in and it'll be a little bit low res. I apologize, but get a load of this Oxford Street. Now this again, it really does look like part of a theme park. That's so funny. I love it. And I mean, listen, I love the various, like, historical architectures of this country I live in. It's one of the things that I was like, damn, this country's good. I like the way the buildings look. It's real cozy. I'd like to live here. And then I did. Because it turns out that sometimes you can just, with a lot of time and all of your money for years and years and years, you can just do that. That couldn't look more different to the Oxford Street in London, says Pigeon. That is very true. The Oxford Street in London is way busier and has a lot more American sweet shops. People go to a theme park version of a place. Do they think it's accurate to the real place, or do they realize it's missing a lot of things and has other things exaggerated? Is that's what I wonder, says Elkwill. I think it depends. I mean, certainly, again, going to, like, the theme park version of a city I've been to, I'm going to be able to recognize, like, oh, I see how they recreated this building or that building or the other. You know, but obviously, like, the streets are different and there aren't car parks here, and it doesn't, I don't feel like I'm in, you know, like an existent bustling neighborhood because everyone here is a tourist as well. Definitely makes for a different experience. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh boy, Leaky says Thames Town was designed to house 10,000 people. 2,300 people live there. I've seen videos and it's a ghost town. That must be such a weird place to live. That must be such a weird place to live. Just being like, especially a town, you know, sort of or a suburb or a neighborhood or whatever it is, that is designed, you know, like from end to end to be a reproduction of an area or, you know, whatever from a completely different country, has got to be like a weird experience. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, there is the odd, you know, when you visit, like, the Chinatown of various cities, there's often, like, hey, there's an architectural feature that's a nod to the fact that this community has a lot of, like, Asian immigrants and businesses. That's neat. But there's a difference between that and, like, we are deliberately creating a neighborhood that is meant to feel like you are in this country. Weird! So weird! But even, like, again, Poundbury, it feels like going to an England theme park whilst you're in England. It's so weird. It's so weird. It's not, I don't hate it. I think it's cute, but I also think that it feels like a simulacrum because it is, you know? That's the difference. Maybe in, like, 100 years time, 200 years time, it's gonna feel more organic than it presently does. But oh, for now, it really feels it feels constructed in a very deliberate way. There are places, like, there are buildings where they want it to look like they've got sort of like architectural columns on the outside, but they're actually just painted on. Um, which again adds to the "am I in a theme park or am I in a village" kind of feeling. Um, Al Quill says it feels a bit people knowing places only from media, and that leads to people thinking all over Germany people live in those the timber frame houses and wear lederhosen and asking things like, do you have newspapers in Germany? No. No. Anyways. Um Chinatown featuring the stereotypical Asian font. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. The stereotypical Asian font, but it's like using, Latin lettering, is right up there with uh any piece of, like, graphic design that wants to look like Eastern European, so they use, like, Cyrillic lettering, but just spelled as, like, Latin, English words, using the letters that look kind of like Latin letters from the Cyrillic alphabet to make it look, like Russian, Eastern European, Ukrainian, whatever. But that just means if you actually, like, can read the Cyrillic alphabet, it's just gibberish. I hate it. It's so bad. The Lego version of Any City is Superior. Correct. That is correct. That reminds me. Last time we went to Canada, the thing that we brought my nephew was Lego do these, like, little city postcards of different cities. And there's one for New York and Tokyo, and there's one for London. So we got him the London City postcard, which is a little thing that, has different, like, little landmarks and that kind of thing of the place that it's from. And he loved it. I think it's a really cute gift to give someone if you are from that city or if you have visited that city and bring it back. I think those are really, really cool. I don't know if they still make them, but I think they're neat. Alcol says a friend of mine went to the U.S. on a student exchange and got asked the newspapers things. Oh god, back in the 90s, so not really internet. That's just. I think that says more about the education system of the people that they were speaking to, than anything. Because good lord, just I don't know. Just I think that. Maybe it's like, I'm from Canada, so obviously it's different, but I feel like we had somewhat of a more global centric understanding of things than I think some of the, like, US centric education system often does, just in terms of people, like, people growing up in America who don't really have an awareness of geography beyond America, people who can recite all of the US states and don't realize that Africa is not a country. Anyways, it is distressing how common that is. Still, it's like, hello? Hello? No! Papyrus font for Middle Eastern stuff. Oh, my favorite, Casa. But I mean, I remember, okay, so when I was, like, I think about 19, I was visiting somewhere in the Midwest US. And legit, I was getting off of a train, and this random stranger asked me if I was from England. And I was like, what? Do I sound English to you? Like, I didn't say it like that. I was just like, oh, no, I'm not. Thanks. But I was completely baffled. Like why? Like, what? What? Anyways. Cassis says, my sister got asked by her fellow university students from England if we had shops up north, if we had to travel to London. This was like the 2000s. Oh, God. Do you have shops up north, or do you have to travel to London? I hate it. I mean, it just goes to show that, like, not knowing stuff can be anywhere. And I don't fault people for not knowing stuff, I guess, unless you consider it, like, unless you consider ignorance to be sort of, like, something you're proud of. There are people who genuinely take pride in not needing to know things, supposedly. They're like, I don't need to know any more information than I already do, and I'm not interested in learning. I don't understand this viewpoint, because, oh boy, do I love learning stuff. I like knowing things and you know, expanding my perspectives and worldview and just gaining information that is useful to know. But yeah, I realize this isn't, my experience is not universal, apparently. Leaky says, Twitch needs a just chatting whilst looking permanently at unfinished art category. I mean, no, you're right. We've been going for almost 2 hours, and I have painted this strip of green, so you're not wrong. But I mean, thank you for talking to me, everyone. I'm having a great time. We do have civilization north of Watford Gap, says Casa. It's true. It's true. I mean, I will say there are some portions of the Midlands that I would consider quite boring. But that doesn't mean that they don't have, you know, like, Asda's and Tesco's and, like, I don't know, pubs and stuff. Dentists' offices. Man, what a silly question. I hope those people felt silly after asking. It's one of those, I think it's one of those things sometimes that can just sort of like come out and then you realize, oh, wait a second, the thing I just asked makes 0 sense. Well, Pigeon says, I've been asked if I'm French before. I was not speaking French. Yeah. Interesting. I have had, like, I remember back when I lived in Canada, I remember having, like, American acquaintances and stuff being like, oh, geez, I'm actually coming up to Toronto for a conference in a few weeks, and I need to brush up on my French. And I was just like, friendo, you do not need to know any French to go to Toronto. You really don't need to know any French to go to Montreal. It would be polite, potentially, but, like, you'll be fine. Leaky says, you know you're outside London. You know you're outside London, because suddenly there are more supermarkets than there are Prets. That is true. That is true. Good lord, you cannot throw a pebble in London without hitting a Pret, I swear. And no going to Quebec with your weird France French, and that includes people who exclusively learned French from English-speaking schools. I say this as someone who studied French every year of, like, primary and secondary school, mostly, but also had, like, family who are Quebecois. And the French that we learned in school was very not the French that is spoken by people who are from Quebec and speak French as, like, a first language. And I feel like that's a deterrent for a lot of like Anglophone English, like, Canadian people to continuing their French education, because, like, how useful is this going to be if I'm not going to be able to understand, like, Francophone people from my own country? But also just a massive learning curve when you actually find yourself in a situation, you know, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna go do a degree in Montreal. Oh wow, none of these people sound like my French teacher. Oh no! It's, maybe it's gotten better, I don't know, but yeah. As far as northern civilizations go, Tal says, only York and Edinburgh, the rest is grim and desolate. I mean, I still haven't been to Edinburgh, can you believe, to learn to know. I've only been in this country for almost 13 years. But I do really like York. There are parts of York that you can pass through that genuinely smell of chocolate, and that, I think, is delightful. Whoa, Casa says, despite this, the street my office is on has 2 Pretz and 2 supermarkets. Wow. That's impressive. That is impressive. Good job, neighborhood street place. I have to remember how to draw, how to paint fire. Edinburgh is like Scottish Oxford, to be fair, says Casa. I feel like I'm given to understand it's hillier. I mean, Oxford does have hills, but if you're just like in the center of Oxford, you can kind of get away with not having to deal with too many hills. It's more if you're wanting to go out into sort of the like neighborhoods, you know, like Cowley or Headington, or not so much Botley. Botley's a floodplain. Summertown's pretty flat as well. Marston, I think there's some hilliness. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just talking about neighborhoods of Oxford now. Sorry. But yeah, business district is a mecca of cafes and small shops for business lunches. Oh, see, that sounds nice. I do like little shops, and I like places where I can get a good cup of coffee. Especially if they're not all Pret. I will say, speaking of places to get a good cup of coffee, as you may know, I am an appreciator of a good cup of coffee, and I remember I wanted to spread my wings, experience some new coffee shops, and go to new places to try coffees that I hadn't been to in London. And looking up so many like best coffees in London lists, the number of best coffee places in London on these lists that were all in Fitzrovia or around Fitzrovia. It's like, okay, that's great. I do actually regularly visit the Fitzrovia area of London because there is a cafe there where I like to get lunch. But with that being said, there are also other parts of the city that I like to go to, and I'd like to know whether or not I can get a good cup of coffee there. Anyways. There also just seems to be like a real cluster of good coffee shops in Fitzrovia. So, I mean, if you're in the Fitzrovia area of London, good luck. You'll probably be able to get a good cup of coffee. I like caffeine, personally, for a good cup of coffee. Partially because they also do Anzac biscuits. And I always get an Anzac biscuit. Which is, if you're not familiar with the Anzac biscuit, it's delightful. It's made with, like, oats and coconut. So it's very, like, textury. And they're really good. Anyways, does the coffee shop with the sweary name still exist? Ooh, that was the one. Oh, man, I haven't been there in about 100 years. Can confirm it's a good biscuit. I love an Anzac biscuit. They're so good. Anyways, the coffee shop with the sweary name, I assume, do you mean Fuck Offie? If so, I am looking it up because I don't know. It's currently closed, but it does look to still be there. Let me check what's the location of it. Yeah, but no, I don't want to order specialty coffee from you right now. I just want to see visit. There we go. Where are you? Okay, yeah. The location that I've been to, I think, is in Bermondsey. And if you happen to be in the area, it is a really nice place to get a cup of coffee. I did get if you get a stamp card from them, it's the loyalty card has bits marked like, you know, blank you, blank me, blank off. It's very fun. Blank this. It's delightful. I remember there was some controversy for quite a while because the sign has a bad word in it. But, I mean, it doesn't really because the word is fuck coffee. But it was also just a cozy little space. There's quite a lot of, like, interesting sort of neon lights in there, but it's also just a cozy place to kind of sit and drink coffee and have a nice time. I would go back there if I was in the vicinity. Because it's delicious. I have been wanting to get back to London for quite a while, actually. It looks like they've also got a location in Bethnal Green. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know if, perchance I find myself in... Cough is a 4-letter word, says Tells. You ain't wrong. Oh no, it's so rude. So rude. Um... Anyways, we are coasting into another ad break, and I've only put down a single color. I was hoping to finish this today, but unfortunately, I just have so many things to say to you guys, and I like talking to you. You're wonderful people to talk to. Please don't stop talking to me on this, you know, basis. I like talking to you, and we will finish this painting. If not tonight, then Monday, which will be bang on time for the Lunar New Year as well. So that's, excuse me, that's absolutely perfect. Anyways, I'm definitely not looking up a picture of fire because I forget what it looks like. And that's what I need to paint next. I miss the height of the Shoreditch hipsterism, to be honest, even if gentrification is very bad. You know what? I agree. I used to enjoy visiting Shoreditch. I still do. Except for the fact that my favorite restaurant in Shoreditch was Padella, and I can't eat that much wheat now without being sick. They're a pasta restaurant. If you are in Shoreditch, book a table at Padella. It is superlative. I don't normally go out for a pasta meal, but oh my god, Padella is so good. And on that note, it's ad break time, so BRB everybody. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Hello. Thanks for hanging out. It's good to be back. Anyways, I have more things to say now. I was trying to remember the name of the street that there used to be. So there's an Australian tea company called T2T that used to have shops here in the UK, but they used to have one shop here in the UK, and it was on Redchurch Street in Shoreditch. So like you knew it was cool. Then they expanded out to like shops in a ton of cities, including the city that I live in, yada yada yada. But like it used to be a special treat to go to the T2T shop on Redchurch Street in Shoreditch and buy a box of tea. Unfortunately, they closed all of their shops back in like 2021 here in the UK anyways, and I think downscaled business-wise quite a lot from the like... It seems like over the course of not very many years, they expanded hugely into the UK and other global markets and then contracted significantly. I was very sad about that because, you know, like I think they do some pretty good teas. But anyways, I was especially a fan of their strawberry and cream fruit tea because my moderator slash spouse and I would make a big jug of the iced tea and we would drink it in the summer, and it was a nice shared experience for the two of us because most of the time he doesn't really like a lot of the teas that I like, so it's nice to be able to share sometimes. Anyways, but I started wandering down the street on like a map, and I saw that Shoreditch has a location of a Japanese restaurant that I have been to in London. I think they have 2 locations. There's one in Shoreditch and one on Camden Passage in Angel. It's called Sushi Show, and I super recommend Sushi Show if you are in either of these locations. Go see the show of sushi. They are specifically known for having really high quality, really fresh fish. I think the owner like also sells fish at like the London fish market, so has very much like an inside track on like what is the fish that's the good fish, and that kind of thing, which is really cool. But weirdly, I don't think I ordered any fish for myself when I ate there. I went to the one, like I said, I went to the one, in Camden Passage and Angel. It was absolutely tipping it down with rain over that lunch period, and the only seating that was available, because this place was tiny as well, there were like a few seats in the window that were occupied, so we had to sit at like an outdoor table under an awning while it was absolutely like tipping it down with rain, having our sushi. And despite that, it was such a lovely experience because the food was so good. And yeah, this place like specializes in fish. It's very, I think probably some of the best sushi that you can get outside of Japan that I've experienced here in the UK. And oh man, all of the things that I ordered were vegan. Not because like I do eat fish from time to time. I do have fish occasionally. Um but hi Martini, how's it going? It's lovely to see you. The horses have cute horns like you. Yee. Yee, the little haunts. This is Hans the Haunts, in case anyone missed them being named. Their name is Hans and they are haunts. But yeah, I had, because I'm a cheap date, so oftentimes when I go out to have like sushi, especially for lunch or whatever, what do I want to get? I want kappamaki, that is cucumber and rice wrapped in seaweed. I want tamago nigiri, which is a little, sort of a little nugget of rice with a little piece of egg omelet on the top of it, wrapped in a little strip of seaweed. And I probably want inari sushi, which is a bundle of sushi rice inside a little tofu wrapper. I did have some of my moderator / spouse's salmon sushi, and it was genuinely excellent. But yes, probably one of the best sushi experiences I've had. Though that being said, if you're ever in the city of Oxford, I recommend Kazan sushi. It's very, very good as well. I especially like their eel. Anyways, and their agarashi tofu. We went there for our anniversary last weekend. And it was really good. Anyways, Leaky says, I miss the Japanese-style karaoke bar in Soho. I didn't even know that was a thing. It used to be BYOB and it was dirt cheap. Now neither of those things. Of course not, because time ruins everything. Cranky says, oh, like sushi. Yeah. Eels. The most London of foods. Katie says, I've been told sushi is intended to be more about the rice than the fish. I mean, I do think that good rice can make or break a sushi for sure. So yeah, definitely can get on side with that. Like, when you get, like the, I mean, I think having really good quality, really fresh fish also definitely makes a difference. But having had some god-awful sushi from the Yo Sushi takeaway bento section, and then having that as, like, my in-flight lunch once was a horrendous mistake. Oh god, there was something wrong with that salmon. Ugh. Anyways, unagi. Unagi is eel. Inari is tofu. Yeah. But yeah, like the difference between supermarket sushi and like good restaurant sushi, a lot of that is that supermarket sushi, like the rice is always kind of bleh, 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 bleh. Anyways, my moderator / spouse is home. So, I'm gonna go say hi to him. I'll be back in a second. Hey, baby. Hi. What's this? Well, who's putting food in the recycling bins? It's obviously not us, because we know how bins work. Hi, baby. Welcome home. I miss you and I love you.
I assume everything was okay with Tesco order?
Everything was absolutely fine with the Tesco order.
Say it wasn't.
Okay. You received a 4-pack of cheese strings.
Good.
Yeah.
We're doing a roast this night.
We're having a roast dinner.
Big
Tee.
kind of way.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Do you count putting vegetarian sausages and
It's almost
Yorkshire
more toad
puddings?
in the hole, isn't it?
It's kind of deconstructed toad in the hole, yeah. Okay, well, I love you. Hello! It's even more sushi. Also, hi, Katie. I don't think I said hello to you. Welcome in. But yeah, I would rather my sushi be made with good quality rice, certainly, and well prepared rice as well. Because, man, sometimes you can tell. You can tell. And especially, you know, I haven't had in ages, but I do love, is a good jam donut. You know, that sushi-adjacent snack, the jam donut. I'm putting a, good rice and stank old fish. Yeah, and I will also pass on that. I would rather everything be good in it. I placed a jam donut in the chat. If anyone's not, the Pokemon Jam Donuts is cranky. Yeah, you get it. In the Pokemon anime, when it was localized into English, at one point one of the characters is eating onigiri, aka the triangular-shaped rice ball snack. You know, that is like a popular grab-and-go good food in Japan, that sometimes it's just a ball of salted rice, and sometimes it'll have like it'll, you know, have like a filling in the middle of it, like salmon, or umaboshi, as Cranky mentions, which is like a pickled plum, or a seaweed salad, which was always my favorite. You know, or something like that. Tuna mayo is a very popular flavor. I was actually surprised to learn recently the most popular flavor of onigiri, like purchased from convenience stores in Japan, is salted rice flavor. I mean, I guess because it's kind of like the you know, like plain crisps of rice ball snack. But I assumed that the most popular would be something like tuna mayo, because tuna mayo is a really popular flavor. But no, it's just a ball of rice with salt. And you know, sometimes you just want a ball of rice. But personally, I want something in it. Some vitamins, some protein. Not just a ball of rice, but yeah, just plain old rice. I guess because like it's all of the flavors versus no flavor. So numbies wise, like, I guess. But yeah, that was wild to me, buying a loaf of bread and just eating it plain, says Cranky. Yeah! I mean, obviously the rice is somewhat seasoned. It's in the name. It's like, you know, shio, rice, like salt-flavored rice. But still, wow. Anyways, yes, in the English language localization of this Pokemon anime, one of the characters has onigiri, and he's holding them up, but instead of being like, hey everybody, I got rice balls, he's like, oh, check out these jam donuts, my favorite. And he's holding what is obviously a triangular rice colored object wrapped in something that sure looks the color of seaweed. It was such a weird choice. You know, animes in the 90s, especially like animes for kids in the 90s, and their weird localization choices are just fascinating and very funny to me in a lot of cases. Like the original English dub of Sailor Moon is hilarious. I think that was for kids, says Cranky. Yep. I mean, it was very much for kids, but it was also for kids animation, yeah. Ha! Anyways, I might actually paint in a color. I think I might switch to a smaller brush to do the fire. The, at least for one piece, the, localizers. The localizers, yee. But, yes. And now you know. And knowing is half the battle. Anyways. I think one of my very favorite, weird thing, weird thing that they did specifically with Sailor Moon, I remember. I don't know if they did this with other cartoons in the 90s, but in the English dub of Sailor Moon, they had to, because it was deemed not educational enough for some reason, they tacked this extra little scene onto the end that just took like existing shots of the existing animations of the characters from elsewhere in the episode and just redubbed them with like saying something about like, oh, I remember one of them was like, here's Sailor Mercury being like, you know, You know, like, oh, it's lots of fun to hang out in the sun, but make sure you always wear sunscreen. Like that was a PSA at the end of Sailor Moon for some reason. They would vaguely sometimes try and tie it into the theme of the episode, but it was usually pretty tenuous and not very good. Al Quill is heading out to watch the news and then wrap up their day. I hope you have a lovely time. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It's been lovely to see you, and I hope you have a good one. Katie says, wasn't the English dub of Sailor Moon also the one that tried to pass off a lesbian couple as a pair of cousins? Which is, that is just a weird choice on so many. They could have just been weird about it and said that they were just very good friends. They could have just been best friends, you know? But no, they're going to take the obvious lesbian couple and be like, this is my cousin. And I don't know, that's why we make out and share a bed. Like, it's just, you've just taken something that you could have at least been homophobic in like a normal way. But no, now you had to make it creepy. Just like every history book ever, roommates and friends forever, says Cranky. Oh man, yeah, it's just real. There was, speaking of, I learned of a Reddit, a subreddit yesterday that is r/Sappho and her friend, and it is just a place to capture and discuss and sometimes dunk on, but also sometimes have serious discussions about finding examples of historically, and historians specifically also downplaying or dismissing the idea that, like, this obvious couple could be an obvious couple. You know what I mean? Sappho is such a good friend. Yeah. We got cousin crushes, but it's just normal. Oh, no. Imply incest instead of gay girl, says Katie. Yeah, how is that better? How is that better? No. See, this is the thing about Cardcaptor Sakura. I never saw Cardcaptor Sakura. I don't think it played in the country I'm from. Or possibly just not on any TV that I had. Same with trans folks. They're all quirky and, like, wearing fun clothes. Oh, yeah, there are still articles and stuff being published about, what's his name? Dr. James Barry, who, like, pioneering physician of his time, right? Was very much a guy, was named Dr. James Barry, and did doctory things, and, like, I don't know, dated some ladies. I don't know if he got married, but I think he definitely dated some ladies. Anyways, but if you're not familiar with Dr. James Barry, one of the things about him is that before he died, he expressed the wish that, like, he didn't want his body, like, examined or his clothes changed or anything. He just wanted to be buried and remembered, and that's it. And instead of complying with these wishes, they were like, no, let's examine him anyways. And they found, oh, wait a second, you've got a set of genitals we weren't expecting. Oh, wow, she was disguised as a woman, she was a lady disguised as a man all along. And then, like, misgender, dead name. And there are still articles being published today about, like, oh, women's history, blah, 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 dead name. I don't remember what his dead name was, and I am not going to say what his dead name was if I do remember, because I respect the fact that he clearly lived his life as a man, wished to be perceived by his peers as a man, died as a man, and asked not to be examined because he was a trans guy and people didn't get it. Like, that's pretty clear cut that I think we can safely make the inference that if we want to respect the wishes of this person, that we respect the fact that they used a man's name, lived as a man, and wished to be treated as one. So, oh my god, stop, like, lumping him in with women's history when he was not one. Demonstrably so. What the fuck? Pardon my French, it makes me mad. It's just, The Mulans of life, says Cranky. Yeah, exactly. It's just, Katie says, yeah, Barry deserved better. He super does, and he still deserves better. I just think it's genuinely crazy. I genuinely think it's crazy that there are people to this very day not getting that fact. That, like, you know, listen, I love the historical story of, you know, woman passes herself off as a man to get to do man's business. And that absolutely happened in history. There were definitely women who did that, but there were also just people who were trans. There have always just been people who were trans. And, you know, like, I'm really grateful that some of them did get to live out their lives just being trans and not being bothered about it. That's really cool. Good for them. I love that, you know? But as like respected historical figures, can we respect that about them, please? Thank you. Gah. Anyways, if you want to put him somewhere history-wise, trans history is better representation from the women's history. Oh, absolutely. He is a very important figure in trans history. And I think in terms of, like, the things that he did with regards to, like, women's health, I think he's important in the history of women's health, but as a trans man. That's the important thing. Anyways, there's a whole podcast about trans history called One from the Vault, says Cranky. Ooh, adding it to my list. That sounds great. Because it's so obscured due to all of these issues. And I mean, I understand that, like, there is a lot in terms of, like, trans and just generally queer history that is really hard to confirm and hard to research because, oddly enough, like, even now, there are a lot of places where being, like, fully out is not easy. You know, I was just last night watching a video on a queer figure of history from Kaz Rowe on YouTube. If you're not familiar with Kaz Rowe on YouTube, they do a lot of videos about queer history. They're very interesting. But they point out the fact that a lot of the time it is really hard to, you know, you see, like, oh, these two women seem like really good friends. And we can kind of infer now that, well, you know, well, they were obviously lovers. They lived together for years and never married. I mean, come on. But sometimes it is hard to, like, as historians, one wants as concrete evidence as you can have with that before, you know, sort of ascribing something to someone that you can't 100% verify. It's difficult. But you can certainly say it's a theory that they were probably lovers, right? Like, that's fine. Anyways, please go eat, Leaky. Enjoy your food. But yeah, hey now, friends can get in each other's pants and live together too. I mean, that's also true, you know? Like, again, we don't know. That's the point about a lot of queer history, is a lot of it is kind of obscured, a lot of it is opaque, in part because we don't have a lot of records of these kinds of things. Because there was, in a lot of times and places, an inherent danger to keeping records of these kinds of things. Even just, like, not necessarily danger to the person, but, like, you know, reputational danger to the family. So any, like, personal letters or things that, like, confirm that these two people are in love with each other were destroyed after the person died. You know what I mean? Like, that's not uncommon. That it's like, we sure don't have a lot of personal correspondence from this person after they died because the family burned them. So no one would find out their secret shame. Like, it's effed up. Anyways, but with that being said, we also know that there were, like, there were people just out there living their best lives at places and times in our history that you don't really hear about. There were churches in, like, the 18th century in England performing gay weddings. You don't hear about that, but it's true. You know, like, these things did happen. They recognize that, like, hey, we're not getting legal recognition for this, but we sure are husbands. And I think that's at least it was not always just abject misery and suffering. There was a lot of joy in queer history as well, which also gets erased or hard to track down, unfortunately, but it's out there. Anyways, if you think about it, though, says Cranky, defaulting them to being straight is as bad as just assuming they're queer. I think so, but unfortunately, we live in a heteronormative society that you are pretty much assumed to be cishet unless proven otherwise, which is annoying. But here we are. Cranky says, at least as far as historical accuracy goes, like, imagine all those gay people that live their whole lives pretending to be straight, though. Can't assume. Absolutely. 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 You know, like, there were 100%, like, so many situations of people who were either just, like, not out to anybody and just had to, you know, like, got married straightly and just did that and were like, huh, well, I sure wish this wasn't the case, you know what I mean? It's just it's difficult and complicated. It's difficult and complicated, and especially in cases of history where people have been dead for a really long time. We can't just ask them, what words would you use to identify yourself? You know, when you have people who, historical figures who seem to be gender nonconforming in some way, we can't just go, you know, like, I feel like Dr. James Barry is a pretty clear-cut case of this was a trans man. I have no doubt in my mind about that based on the evidence that we have from his life. But with that being said, there are a lot of other cases where it's a little bit more ambiguous, where you have someone who was, you know, in some way, shape, or form gender nonconforming, but can we assume that they were trans based on that? Not necessarily. You know, there are cis people now who are also gender nonconforming, but still consider themselves to be cisgender, and that is, you know, respectable. That is valid. That's fine. So to that end, there are a lot of figures where it's like, okay, we can see that this figure is gender nonconforming in some ways, but we can't necessarily ascribe definitive transness to them, either because transness was not understood in the same way back then as it is now, or that there just isn't quite the right, like, the correct amount of evidence to assume that that's how they felt about themselves. Maybe they wanted to be more outwardly trans than they were and just weren't able to because of societal stuff. We don't know. It's tricky. I am also not a historian. I am just a big nerd for this stuff. So there is definitely more in, if you want to dig into sort of queer historiography, there's a lot. And I would love to dig into it more, but unfortunately I have so many other competing interests, and also I have to pay my rent and sometimes go to sleep. But it is an interesting thing to consider and know and think about. And it's also good to just, you know, like, to tell the stories of queer historical figures, whether that be, you know, sort of like figures that we know for certain to be queer, or figures that we strongly suspect were, or at least some aspect of what we know about them can definitely be viewed through a queer lens. Anyways, it's all important and good. Have you seen the old movie Victor Victoria? You know, weirdly, I don't think I've ever seen it. I probably should at some point. Is it worth seeing? I guess I would ask Chad. Is it worth seeing? Cranky says, such an interesting part of it too. Like, gender lines were just different and weird too. Humans are all so organic and fluid. Yeah, and also, even like contemporarily across cultures, our concept of gender and what it means and what genders there are is not, you know, obviously, like the like my view of it, my conception of it as like a Western Canadian person living in the UK is a very Eurocentric view of what gender is, but there are plenty of other cultures in other parts of the world that have different concepts of gender and different, like, you know, beyond just like male and female, like different concept, like multiple concepts of third genders and, you know, different ways of thinking about like different kinds of non-binariness and that kind of thing that, you know, like this is nothing new, right? And also different ways of thinking about transness that are like culturally specific to different places, different parts of the world. And so, you know, when I'm talking about this kind of thing, I'm usually talking about it from my perspective as like a white Western, you know, European resident. but also with the awareness of the fact that, again, this is all a social construct. This is how this sociality conceives, like, of and constructs those things. But even like right now, there are other places and other cultures that conceive of these constructs of gender in ways that we do not. Anywho, like, not to mention across the breadth of time, you know, like, there's nothing natural about gender. It is... Anyways, you're such a nerd, says Cranky. Oh my god! Oh my god! How dare! You don't say! Cranky says, not gonna lie, respect to queer history, special interest. Trains are fine, but I think that's better. I mean, hey, listen, trains are really cool too. There is actually, there is some interesting, speaking of queer history and trains, if you're curious, there is a video on YouTube. I don't have a link to it to hand, but tell you what, I'm gonna very quickly try and look it up, and pop it in the chat. Cause there is, this fellow who, okay, let's see it. Let's see if this search brings it. Yeah, okay. So this came out about 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna copy link address. It's called The Trans Woman Who Gave Us Model Railways, and it's basically this woman who, turns out real. I'm gonna delete all of the, like, qualifying source share blah 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 in the linkage. And I'm popping that link in the chat if you want to save that and pop it in a new tab and watch it at some point. Because this is a really interesting piece of history about a figure you might not have heard of, but if you're interested in trains and you're interested in queer history, this lady, real interesting in terms of what she did with her life and how her work relates to, like, what are now, like, modern model railways and stuff. It's quite cool. And she's someone I'd never heard of before. But my god, please, trigger warning if you decide to go Google her. Because, again, so many of the other sources, like older blogs and stuff and articles that I found about her, used the wrong pronouns. Like, the correct name, but the wrong pronouns. Get in the bin. Q2 says, you know who's also quite cool? At Sammy Kelch. Oh, come on. Hey. Hey. Also, thank you. And on that note, I think we've brought things full circle, so I'm gonna call it a stream there. I realize I've done basically no painting today, but I had a really nice time talking to y'all about, you know, like, trains and city planning and queer history and, like, East London. It's been really fun. So thank you for that. I'm gonna see if I can find someone for us to rain into. And again, I'm so sorry we didn't actually do very much in the way of painting. But I promise we'll get this done on Monday. Not doing any art like a real art streamer. Oh wow, I finally made it as an art streamer. Yay! Anyways, let me just check. Okay, I'm gonna potentially send us to another channel, but let me just double check and make sure that they're actually not just about to finish before I do. But anyways, I was having a good time. I hope that y'all had a nice time too. We're gonna oh my goodness, he's wearing a very cute looking like bear onesie. That's adorable. So we're gonna go see Quill, who I've experienced a stream of a few times now, who's really delightful as a human being. So, and with any luck, not just about to finish. So let's pop some little ananas in the chat. If you have the emotes, feel free to grab the emotes. If you don't have the emotes, you can just say generic raid message or pen any cool emotes that you do have. It's all good. Hopefully that worked. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been super, super fun. I will be back tomorrow morning playing a Thilk song. And hopefully making some progress in it because I'm really scared that I'm not ever going to finish it. But I guess we'll soon find out. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with me, y'all. It's been super nice. And I hope to see you again soon. Have a good one, y'all. Take care. Good night, and good luck.